Welcome back to Ignite Agility. Today I have Alexey Kravitsky, and he's going to talk to us about org topologies. So I'm going to let him talk to you a little bit about himself, and then I'm going to interview him with all kinds of good questions you all have given me and told me you want to hear about. Alexey, tell us a little
Yes.
bit about you.
Hi, and thanks for having me on this podcast. Yeah, so I'm Alexei. I'm born and raised in Ukraine, and for the last 12 years, I live in Germany, in Munich, in a wonderful Bavaria. And together with Roland Flam, for the last 3, 4 years, we have been not creating, but rather discovering this thing called org topologies. And I'm really happy to share with you what that is.
Well, and that leads me right into my first question. Why org topologies, or how did this even come about? Because I know there's some aspect of it that Craig Larman, co-creator of Large Scale Scrum or co-creator of Less, is involved in.
Yeah, so and I figured I should also answer your previous question in a bit more detail, which gives us the bridge to this one. So I am a software developer and a consultant. I also worked for many years as a change agent, Scrum Master, Agile coach. So I've been very much involved, as well as my colleague Roland Flam, in in different org change, especially in the field of like agile adoptions and less large scale scrum adoptions. And we both are scrum trainers, so we spent quite some time in that field. And org topologies came about to be the like the sum of the realizations that we have had during our work. So it all started with me and him talking to each other about our different clients. And then he would say, hey, I have this client and they want to do safe or team
Mhm.
topologies and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, but what exactly do they want to create and why? And what's currently, and what will be their vector of org development? And how do they see themselves in 5 years? And, like all these good questions, I would ask him, and I would also ask my clients. And in most cases, they would go like, we don't know. We just think this framework helps us. But like, if you go one level deeper, you start asking all these questions like, but what exactly are you trying to build? So I'm
Right.
not so I'm not trying to downplay the leaders of the companies, but this is actually my experience that if you go and ask, so what actually are you building here? Most people even don't know how to start answering that question. And Octopologies is this language, visual tool, a map that I believe helps a lot of people to actually lay down the map on the table and say, hey, we actually think we now here and we like to go there. So this is our transformation journey, you can say.
You are so spot on. I mean, it's kind of like a bad joke when I ask some of these leaders, well, what are you building with Scrum, or what are you hoping to do? They're like, no, no, no,
Right.
we go agile. Just start sprinting.
Right. Yeah. And I mentioned that we've been in this field of Agile for many years because I want to make another point clear. I think a lot of people don't really know what they mean with the term agile. And I used
Hmm.
to call myself an agile coach, and I don't do this anymore. And I barely use the term agile. Although I value the agile values, I keep them to myself. But then if somebody mentions, hey, we would like to do agile or be more agile or whatever, I like ignore that completely. And I start to ask them questions like, what actually is your current problem? What are you like, what is your company needs to be optimized for? And how you currently doing that? And then we see either agile or something else might be something of a tool. So I also don't mean to, like underplay agile to be just a tool, but I think we all suffered from agile not being clearly defined, and different people, like putting different definitions there.
Hmm.
And it's fine to have your own definition as long as it is shared within your company and different people in your company understand the same thing. Sadly, that's not the case based on
It's
my
not.
experience. Somebody would say agile, and somebody would think cross-functional teams, and somebody else would think something else, something else, something else. So we have been lacking a shared language, I think, in our domain of org change. And one of the motivations of org topologies, actually, that we have realized after we have actually defined org topologies, like, hey, this is actually serving as a great shared language. Now we don't need to say Agile or Scrum or Safe. We can just point to this area on the map and say, hey, these are the kinds of work units with these dynamics that we have, and let's discuss if that like suits us, or do we need to change it.
And for people listening going, he keeps talking about this map, he keeps talking about this map. I told Alexey I'm a visual person, so we will make sure you have a link to that map in the comments below. We'll pin it right at the top, and we may even have it shown in post-production here. But the question that made me chuckle a little bit, but we're not gonna assume people know what words mean.
No.
Why the word topology? And
Yeah,
topology is just the arrangement, the structure. So why that word? Just
yeah, so two different stories I can tell about the work topologies. So we were playing with the different terms, with the different names, and one of the early like working title was adaptivity fit, like how to find your fit. To be more adaptive, because we both, me and Roland, we come from the community of systems thinking in org design and less large-scale Scrum. So we believe a lot of organizations actually would benefit from being more adaptive. So we were working in this field, and then we realized, hey, actually one problem we would like to solve is to help people see more options. Like you will share the map eventually to the people of this, to the listeners of the podcast. But just to be clear, the map has two axes, has two dimensions. One axis is the horizontal one, which is about the scope of skills, like how much skills people are allowed to use at work, going from functional to multifunctional to end-to-end, etc. And a lot of organizations, they actually develop only in this direction. So for a lot of people, Agile means creating and spawning more and more cross-functional teams. And one of the motivation of Org Topologies is to show this, there is this other dimension, the product dimension, or the, how we call it now, scope of work mandate dimension, like what kind of mandate people have at work, what is their input? Are these tasks or features, capabilities of a product, or maybe a business model or a business problem, a customer journey? So different teams, different work units can work at these different levels. Some of them just producing more output. Some of them are focusing on the outcomes. And one of the things that had been known when we were looking for this name was team topologies, right? There's been there's been a book from 2018, which I actually struggled to read twice. I don't think I would recommend to read anybody this book. If you didn't read, don't bother. If you have, maybe you found some gems there, but team topologies is super popular because it gives this one simple answer. Hey, go and create this ecosystem, or create this types of teams which will support each other in a certain way. And we call this a topology. It's just one of many team topologies you can have. And we thought, hey, we would like to show this other dimension. It's not just about the teams being better. It's also about how much work you're giving them, how much bigger picture they're able to share. And we thought, yeah, we're not really in team optimization business. We are in organizational optimization business. So org topologies would be a name not to really, compete with team topologies, but to show what we are up to. And that domain was available, orgtopologies.com, and we bought it. And the other story about the name is that 3 years later, I got a message from Craig Larman, the author of Less, a large-scale Scrum. And he says, hey, Alexey, in his Craig Larman's, way of saying things. If you know it, you know it, right? So
I do.
yeah, like, hey, Alexei, I found this org topologies thing and I saw your name like in the footer. And because you're like one of less trainers, hey, like, why don't we write a book about it? And I'm like, what? Excuse me, Greg. I mean, first of all, we already are writing a book with Roland on that, and of course, we can discuss having you in the team. And actually, he's now in the team, and we're writing a book with the three of us. And then I asked him, like, what do you actually know or like about that? And he said, in his Greg's style, oh, I don't know much about org topologies. I just like the S in the end. I'm like, I need you to unpack this for me. And he says, I've been always looking for a way to show people there is more than one way to do things.
Yeah.
And this plurality of topologies, this S in the end, or topologies is plural, helps me to do my work better at teaching people org design as an art and science of showing different options and finding people's, like different org designs which are fit for purpose. I'm like, okay, actually, we haven't, and then with Roland, we've realized we haven't looked at this like this before. And then 2 years later, we have crystallized these three different topologies. So I would recommend the readers of this, the listeners, I guess, of this podcast, to go and download our primer. It's a 29 PDF that we've crafted together with Craig. Now it's downloadable on our website, and there you'll find description of these three different topologies that we have identified. So now we're showing this palette of different org design options, you can say, for people to choose from.
And of course, Craig is involved because one of the pages says a man walks into the bar, somebody walks into a bar.
Exactly. There's this red line. Like, Greg is here, and if you don't know, or if you know, he always opens his trainings or talks with a bad joke of somebody walking into a bar. And we thought, yeah, we should also keep that style.
Of course. Sometimes it's even a duck. A duck walks into the bar. Yeah. So always something. So who is the intended audience for org topologies? I have a lot of people who are Scrum masters or who have been, I'm going to use air quotes, Agile coaches, right? But who did you really have in mind that you're like, if we could only have one perfect audience, who would it be? Who are we really targeting?
Yeah. So we're currently writing a book, as I said, and we're looking for a title. And the current working title is "Elevating Performance of Orgs with Org Topologies," something like that. In the era of AI, of course, because AI plays a big significance in org design. So it's about elevating. That's the word we use a lot in the field of org topologies. We have these guides or ideas that we call elevating katas. So we are collecting these elevating katas, different exercises, different guidelines, different experiments you can do in your company to elevate towards the top right part of the map. So back to your question, who is the audience? Is essentially everybody who is interested and yet better have some power mandate to improve performance of their organization. And here, I guess you can say these are the leaders of the orgs, like people who hold org design. Like essentially everybody in the company is influencing org design, but not everybody spend quality time like thoughtfully analyzing and planning the change. So we believe that for what some people call change agents, somebody who is trying to improve the organization, and we believe these different three topologies that we've defined, they can be used differently to optimize different kinds of performances, if you will. So for everybody who wants to improve their organization, to be super broad here, Angel.
And I did have this question from a student who has attended Craig Larman's workshop, but I think you briefly touched on it. They said, is org topologies rooted in systems thinking? And I think it's a resounding yes from what I heard you say.
Yes, it's definitely yes, because one of the original question back in the days, I was really puzzled and looking for a tool as a Scrum Master, and then Org Topologies came to be invented or discovered as this answer is like, hey, improving individual teams that all of us have been doing for many years in the field of Agile might not really trigger a lot of performance improvements, right? So like you really need to look at the ecosystem, as we call it. Like you need to think of the value these teams are producing. You need to look in between the teams into the dependencies they have, and typically dependencies have this bad negative word, but I mean, it's like a relationship between the teams. All of these things need to be optimized together. So yes, we come from we're not like scientists or something, but we have been trained with Roland by Craig and by others in the field of systems thinking, and that comes naturally to us. And the main message of Org Topology is, hey, it's not enough just is to optimize a team or to make a team agile. You really need to think of a bigger picture of how the different units interact with each other, and then you can find your own constellation of teams, a topology that works best for you. So yes, definitely.
It seems that what you were just talking about, like when we talk about cross-functional teams in a certified Scrum training class, let's say, or even in a less basic or a 3-day less workshop, large scale Scrum, where we're seeking to eliminate some of those dependencies through structure change,
Right.
it seems to blow some leaders' minds wide open when
Yeah.
you start talking about cross-functional because they incorrectly assume, oh, that means everybody should do everything. Well, no,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
means that's just a happy benefit, if people want to keep learning, but it's getting the skills you need across the working increment of product. And
Yeah.
it seems that org topologies goes right to the heart of that issue, where we kind of dance around it a little bit in Scrum.
Yeah, and actually, to make this point even bigger than that, it's not just to eliminate dependencies or to shock someone with some revelation that, hey, you can actually eliminate dependencies, not just manage them. A lot of people have this idea of the world at work being like black and white. Like it's a waterfall versus agile. It is Scrum versus, I don't know, Kanban or DevOps these days now. It is like safe versus less. And this is, of course, doesn't lead you to any, depths in your discussions because it just, superficial comparison of things. So the
And
map.
it's triggering. People get defensive.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not about like choosing black over white or vice versa. The map, and I'm sure you will add this map
Yep.
somewhere here, would be nice moment in the video, like bam, it appears, Angela, in the video, and people see that the map is actually multicolored. So the world of org design is multicolored. There's no one size fits all. And if you look at the map, you will not find agile or waterfall or safe or less in there because we're not in a cheap business of comparing different things and giving people, like, do you want red pill or blue pill or whatever. We want people to think, right? And if you think, you would find, okay, it's not actually black and white. Like every waterfall organization actually has some iterations going, and every Scrum team actually has typically some mini waterfalls baked in the process. So it's not either or, it's about finding the thing that works for you, right? So back to your question of dependencies and people being shocked that you can eliminate them. Yes, I think you can minimize dependencies, if you will, or as we say in the less community, I'm sure Angela, like we turn the dependencies into the tickets for collaboration, because
Mhm.
every dependency actually means you and I, we need to sit together and figure this one out. But speaking of the dependencies, very briefly, every move on the map from left to right and from bottom to top is about reducing or minimizing effect of some kind of dependencies. It's either within, between different roles and functions into creating a team, or it's between the team into forming this team of teams, essentially.
Another question from somebody who has come to Craig Larman's class, and he'll know who he is because Craig affectionately kept using the term meat widget. So this this person made their name tag say meat widget. So he's affectionately known in our community as Meat Widget. He says, what are indicators that an organization's structure or topology is not as optimal as it could be? In other words, what are some signs that will tell you that something's just off, that something just isn't right?
Yeah, like I'm really bad at answering questions very shortly,
That's
briefly.
okay. We love the long
So
answer.
I'm not sure how much time you want me to answer this one, because essentially answering this question is why there is this idea of org topologies and how to be more thoughtful answering that question. Because like the simple answer is like, yes, you can always improve, right? But a slower answer is like, hey, if you first need to understand what there is and appreciate it and understand it. And only then you can start discussing, okay, like, is it fit for purpose? Can we change it? Can we start experimenting with other ways of being? So for people who would go to the website or would download the primer from the website, they would find these made method. So change made real method that we have, crystallized and made. It comes from 4 different verbs: map, assess, design, elevate. So made, map, assess, design, elevate. So to answer this question, whether we are, optimal already or there's still room for improvement, you still need to map and assess. Essentially, you need to understand what your current ecosystem or the whole org looks like and what it is optimizing for. Is it to keep people busy or to speed up delivery or to be more innovative or
Mm.
something else? And then you should ask yourself, okay, we have this topology that is optimizing for X. Is it actually what we need now? Looking at our business ambitions, like, is it what we need? Or maybe we need to be more innovative, or maybe we need to streamline development of this particular part of the product. And so when the question is no, we're not optimal, then you go into made D&E, design and assess. Then you would find another area on the map visually that would create, that would promise you those lacking capabilities that you have. And then with elevating structures, elevating katas, these guidelines that we have, you can start experimenting with how to move from one topology to the other, either for the whole org or for a little part of an org.
So knowing that system optimizing goal, really knowing, I mean, which still requires assessment. Talking about what that is, and then are we meeting it? Are we not meeting it? So there's a lot wrapped up into that. It's not
Yeah,
any just
yeah,
simple.
yeah. And every org is already optimizing for something, whether explicitly or implicitly. Typically, implicitly, they might have, innovation, collaboration on the walls in the hallway. But if you go and see how people are being managed and treated, you would see a lot of meat widgets, task level individuals on the map, left bottom corner. And then you would ask, hey, is it like, and it's not good or bad, but like the question is it helping us to be competitive? And by the way, Craig made us to go an extra mile trying to find an answer where actually this resource topology, where you keep people busy, is actually
Mhm.
good, is actually good. And we found some good examples where actually it is fit for purpose. And one example would be you are making a movie, right? You are making a movie scene now, and you need a group of dancers. Would you expect people to come and like learn to dance? No.
No.
You would go and you find a group of dancers who can do it in one shot and like go away, and then you're done with them. And you would treat them busy for the time they're paid by you. So when you have these short-term relationships with your agents, with your workers, employees, subcontracts, then the first resource topology is what you need. Another example, it is actually what is going to happen with AI agents.
Mm.
Are you gonna give your AI agents all of mandates to be cross-functional and to, delete your database? Probably no. For the next couple of years,
That would
we
be
would
bad.
we would treat them as slaves, right? We would keep an eye on every AI agent, and we probably will want them to be single functional, so when something goes wrong, they don't really destroy the entire, company, but just a little part of it. And so this is like the resource topology, one of the three org topologies will be perfectly fit for purpose to manage AI agents for the next couple of years to come.
Nice. And then here's we'll go to a final question here. This comes from my favorite student, and they know who they are.
Uh-huh.
What is the market like? If I come to meet Alexey and Roland and get certified in org topologies, what can I use it for to serve companies?
Yeah,
What can I expect to do with it once I have it?
yeah. So by the way, we don't just certify people for breathing 2 days in our class like others might be doing. We want people to actually, after the class, go and apply it and then write some kind of experience report, schedule a talk with us, and then we will call that a person a certified occupational practitioner or a consultant, if they will. And then we expect them to actually apply it whenever it makes sense. Like maybe they are finding a company in the midst of change. And it's always, it cannot do bad if you, put a map on the table and say, hey guys, I know we're doing this change. And I know you saw these slides from our CEO, but like, can we actually discuss like where we're now, where we're going? To align people or to check for alignment. And you'd be surprised, there will be some people in the room who would misunderstand the direction or the intention of the change. So one usage is to align people on what we're trying to improve in the company, and we all are like in the change, right? Because we are always improving, and like improvements never stop. So it's not just apply org topologies only if you're doing like a big flip or change. No, you can apply it daily just to check whether you are moving somewhere thoughtfully, purposefully, right? And then of course you can apply it in preparation for serious org change or org redesign, where you would really go and you would study different work units, teams, and then you would run a workshop with your senior leaders to ask them a question. Okay, like, well, what are we actually optimizing for? What do we need to be in 5 years from now? And then you can use the map to pinpoint those different terrains or areas where they need to be in 2 years and then in 5 years, etc. So for all kinds of improvement work, I would say.
And you know what you said earlier about, hey, you're not going to find anything in the map that has the A word or the S
Mhm.
word on it. I always tell students, if they want to engage in these conversations, to stop verbally throwing up all the scrummy language on people. Just
Right.
don't do it. Makes them defensive. They get a little deer in the headlights because they don't know what these words mean. It feels
Yeah.
like the org topologies map will give anybody in the company, whether they're a scrum master, agile coach, whatever, better language to have some of these conversations.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Angela. It's about giving a more detailed, a more precise language. It's not about agile teams or not agile
Yeah,
teams. It's
yeah.
about like, so how much skills do they have? Are they multi-skill or end-to-end, or are they expanding in a skill set? We have this expanding skill set on the map. And on the other dimension, which kind of work are they given through the interface? Are they given tasks or features or customer problems or business problems? And of course, this gives you way more options. Actually, 4x4, 16 options at least, more than just black and white, agile or non-agile. And hopefully, it's not about like checking some boxes. We're agile already. It's about paying attention and try to be thoughtful. What your organization really needs to look like as it grows and matures.
And we need to let everybody know that you and Roland are coming to Minneapolis. You are bringing this workshop to the United States for the first time ever. So you're coming to my training center, October 23rd and 24th, which is 5 minutes outside of downtown Minneapolis. Are you super excited? Do you have all kinds of fun things planned?
Yes, the Org Topologies class is it's the thing to do in Minneapolis.
Like, well, Roland wants to go to Paisley Park. I don't know. Make sure you guys get some fun time.
I still need to talk to my GPT about what to do in the evening, being jet lagged in Minneapolis. But the main thing is that, of course, to meet your students, Angela, who have asked these wonderful questions. And actually, I hope to find people who have been through the less classes of Craig and Buzz and the others. And because they will find like not missing bits, but the other models that would make them go beyond frameworks.
Yeah.
Essentially, I haven't mentioned that, but I think it is worth mentioning. We are entering the era of like post framework. I think in the industry, like people want to be left alone and to think and to apply what makes sense and pick things from different packages. And Octopology actually, I think, perfectly suits these people, because if you know the direction, then you can experiment with different frameworks or even different specific practices pulled from different frameworks. So people who have been through less classes, they would find a world beyond frameworks. And people who are interested in less still, they would find this very clear direction on the map where less can take you if you want to. So actually, less and Octopologies or any other framework, actually in this case, can be applied together, because you can use the map to be more thoughtful. Which framework, which practice, which skill, which mandate do we need to change, and then use framework as a vehicle to see if it will get you there. And if not, then change that vehicle.
So we're going to drop 3 things in the show notes. We're going to drop a picture to the map, of course, the primer, and a link to the workshop. Alexey, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Angela.